A human orphan was born with golden eyes, but the council realized too late whose blood he carried. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The station's medical bay hummed with the quiet efficiency of advanced technology. Amidst the sterile white walls and monitoring equipment, a newborn child lay swaddled in a thermal blanket, his eyes, golden as twin suns, staring up at the universe with unsettling awareness. The human colony of Epsilon Eridani had seen better days. Once a thriving outpost at the edge of human space, it now teetered on the brink of collapse after the devastating Nereid conflict. Resources were scarce, and orphans like the golden-eyed boy were becoming increasingly common. Dr. Emily Parker checked the infant's vitals one last time before entering his data into the system. Subject 37. Male. Approximately 3 weeks old. No known parentage, she dictated to her medical assistant. And unusual eye pigmentation. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the transmit button. Something about those eyes made her uncomfortable. They seemed to follow her movements with an intelligence that no infant should possess. "You should alert the council about this one," said Dr. Natalie Quinn, the station's senior xenobiologist, appearing at Emily's shoulder. "Golden eyes are not within the spectrum of human genetic variation." Emily frowned. "The council has more important matters to deal with than an orphan baby with an unusual mutation." "Perhaps," Natalie replied, her expression grave. "But what if it's not a mutation?" The Galactic Council's outpost on Epsilon Eridani was a cold, imposing structure of gleaming metal and blue-tinted glass. Its stark angles and towering spires stood in sharp contrast to the ramshackle human settlement that surrounded it. Here, 12 representatives from the most powerful species in the galaxy gathered to maintain order in this remote sector. Inside the council chamber, Delegate Zorvex of the Thalassian Dominion drummed his scaled fingers against the polished surface of the conference table. His emerald skin shimmered under the chamber's soft lighting as he addressed his colleagues. "The human settlement continues to be a burden on our resources," he stated, his voice a low rumble. "They refuse to abandon their colony despite our recommendations." "They are a stubborn species," agreed Delegate Alara of the Meridian Collective, her luminescent skin pulsing with patterns of light that conveyed her irritation. "But they have suffered greatly in the recent conflict. Perhaps we should extend additional aid rather than pressure them to leave." Delegate Thane of the Arcturus Federation, a towering figure with crystalline features, shook his head. "The humans were warned about establishing colonies so close to the Nereid territory. Their stubbornness has consequences." The debate might have continued for hours, as council meetings often did, if not for the urgent message that flashed across their neural interfaces. Dr. Quinn's report on the golden-eyed infant appeared before each delegate, accompanied by genetic analysis and preliminary scans. The chamber fell silent. Then, chaos erupted. "Impossible," thundered Zorvex, rising to his feet. "The Celestials have been extinct for millennia." "The genetic markers are unmistakable," Alara whispered, her skin now pulsing with rapid patterns of blue and white, a sign of extreme distress among her kind. "How could this happen? How could a human child carry celestial blood?" Thane's crystalline features hardened. "If this information is accurate, then we must act immediately. The child cannot remain in human custody." "Agreed," said Zorvex. "Dispatch a retrieval team at once, and ensure this information remains contained. If word spreads that a celestial descendant lives, it could destabilize the entire sector." As the council scrambled to respond, they failed to notice that the transmission had been intercepted. In her small apartment at the edge of the human settlement, Emily Parker stared at her data pad in disbelief. She had suspected the council might take an interest in the child, but not like this. Not with such urgency and secrecy. The Celestials were little more than legend to humans, an ancient race said to have seeded the galaxy with life before mysteriously vanishing. But to the older species, they were very real and apparently very significant. Emily made her decision in an instant. By the time the council's retrieval team reached the medical bay, She had already removed the infant from his crib and slipped away through the station's maintenance tunnels. "I'm sorry, little one," she whispered to the golden-eyed child as they boarded a small transport shuttle. "I don't know what makes you so special, but I won't let them take you." The shuttle's engines roared to life, and Emily plotted a course for the outer colonies. She had no plan beyond escape, but something deep inside told her that this child's fate was too important to leave in the hands of the Council. As the shuttle broke atmosphere, alarms blared throughout the Council's outpost. The child was gone, and with him, a secret that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. 12 years passed in the remote mining colony of Helios 7. The harsh environment of the asteroid belt had forged a hardy community of humans who asked few questions of newcomers seeking refuge from the inner systems. Here, among the dust and rock, the golden-eyed boy grew under Emily's careful guidance. "Mom, they're staring again," said Tyler Grant, his voice barely a whisper as they made their way through the crowded marketplace. Despite the protective lenses Emily had crafted to hide his unusual eyes, people still noticed something different about the boy. "Just keep walking," Emily replied, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. "Remember what I taught you. Blend in. Don't draw attention. Never remove the lenses in public," Tyler recited mechanically. He had lived by these rules for as long as he could remember, though Emily had never fully explained why they were necessary. What Tyler didn't know, what Emily had kept from him, was that the Council had never stopped searching. For 12 years, they had sent agents throughout human space, following even the faintest rumors of a child with golden eyes. And now, those agents were closing in on Helios 7. In their small prefabricated home on the outskirts of the colony, Emily packed essentials while Tyler slept. They would need to move again, and soon. But this time would be different. This time, she would tell him the truth, or at least what little she knew of it. The truth came sooner than expected. Tyler awoke to the sound of breaking glass. Through bleary eyes, he saw figures in dark environmental suits moving through their home. Emily stood in the doorway of his room, a pulse rifle in her hands. "Tyler, run," she shouted, firing at the intruders. "The tunnel under the house, just like we practiced." Panic seized him, but years of drills kicked in. Tyler scrambled through a hidden panel in his bedroom floor, dropping into a narrow maintenance shaft that ran beneath their home. He crawled through darkness, heart pounding in his chest, until he reached the exit 100 meters away. Emerging into the artificial twilight of the colony's outer ring, Tyler heard the unmistakable sound of energy weapons discharging back at the house. His mother was still fighting. He took a step back toward home, then froze as Emily's final instructions echoed in his mind. "If we're ever separated, go to Jared Collins at the spaceport. He'll know what to do." Tears stinging his eyes, Tyler turned and ran toward the spaceport. He hadn't made it half a kilometer before the ground shook with an explosion. Looking back, he saw a plume of smoke rising from the direction of his home. "Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking. But there was no time for grief. The attackers would be coming for him next. The Helios 7 spaceport was a chaotic maze of landing pads, cargo containers, and repair bays. Tyler slipped through the crowds, keeping his head down and his eyes hidden. He found Jared Collins in a dingy office behind the customs area, surrounded by stacks of datapads and empty coffee containers. "My mom sent me," Tyler said, his voice trembling as he closed the door behind him. "Emily Parker." The grizzled spaceport manager looked up sharply, recognition flashing in his eyes. "She said this day might come," he replied, immediately activating a security protocol that sealed the office. "Where is she?" Tyler's silence was answer enough. Jared swore under his breath, then moved with surprising speed for a man his age. From a hidden compartment in his desk, he retrieved a small case and a data crystal. "Your mother left these with me years ago," he explained, handing both items to Tyler. "She said they were for you, if anything happened to her." Tyler accepted them numbly, still processing the reality that his mother was gone. Inside the case, he found a new set of identification documents, credit chips, and a small device he didn't recognize. The data crystal contained a single video file. With shaking hands, he inserted the crystal into Jared's viewer. Emily's face appeared, looking younger than he remembered. "Tyler, if you're watching this, then I'm no longer able to protect you," she began, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "There's so much I haven't told you, so much you need to know. Your eyes aren't a mutation or a defect. They're a birthright." She took a deep breath before continuing. "The Council believes you carry the blood of an ancient race called the Celestials. I don't know how or why, but this makes you incredibly important and incredibly dangerous to the established order. The device in the case will help you find others who might have answers. Trust no one from the Council. They don't want to help you. They want to control you." Her image leaned closer to the camera. "I'm so sorry I couldn't give you a normal life, Tyler. But you were never meant for normal. Find your path. Discover the truth about your heritage. And remember that I love you, golden eyes and all." The message ended, leaving Tyler with more questions than answers. He looked up at Jared, who was already preparing a secure route off the colony. "We need to move quickly," the older man said. "If they found your mother, they'll be sweeping the colony now." "Who are they?" Tyler demanded, his grief turning to anger. "Who killed my mom?" "Council agents, most likely," Jared replied grimly. "The Galactic Council has been searching for you for years. Emily never told me why, just that you needed to stay hidden." Tyler clutched the device from the case. It was smooth and metallic, with no obvious controls or interfaces. Yet somehow, he knew exactly how to activate it. As his fingers traced its surface, the device hummed to life, projecting a holographic star map with a single point pulsing brightly. "What is that?" Jared asked, staring at the projection. "Coordinates," Tyler replied, though he couldn't explain how he knew. "To a place called Solaris Prime." Jared's face paled. Solaris Prime is a myth, a forbidden zone at the edge of known space. No one goes there and returns. "Then that's where I need to go," Tyler said, a newfound determination hardening his voice. For 12 years, he had lived in hiding, always afraid, never understanding why. Now, with his mother gone and his identity revealed, he had nothing left to lose. "Will you help me?" Jared hesitated, then nodded. "Your mother saved my life during the Nereid conflict. I owe her this much." He moved to a terminal and began typing rapidly. "There's a smuggler leaving for the Outer Rim in 2 hours. It's not direct, but it'll get you away from Council space." As they finalized their plans, alarms blared throughout the spaceport. Council forces had arrived and were implementing a lockdown. Time was running out. Jared led Tyler through a series of maintenance corridors and emergency exits, avoiding the main thoroughfares where Council agents would be searching. They reached the smuggler's ship, a battered freighter called the Horizon Seeker, just as its engines were warming up for departure. "Captain Wells owes me a favor," Jared explained as they approached the loading ramp. "He'll get you safely to the transfer point at Proxima Station. After that, you're on your own." Tyler nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of his new reality. He was alone now, hunted by the most powerful organization in the galaxy, with only cryptic clues about his heritage to guide him. "Thank you," he said to Jared, extending his hand. "For everything." The older man ignored the hand and pulled Tyler into a brief, fierce hug. "Stay alive, kid, and find the answers your mother died protecting." Aboard the Horizon Seeker, Captain Connor Wells was a gruff man of few words. He asked no questions about his young passenger, simply showing Tyler to a small cargo hold converted into crude living quarters. "Stay here until we clear the system," he instructed. "If Council patrols stop us, you hide in the smuggling compartments under the floor." "Understood," Tyler nodded, settling onto a narrow bunk as the ship shuddered and broke free of the colony's artificial gravity. Through a small viewport, he watched as Helios 7, the only home he'd known for 12 years, grew smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Alone with his thoughts, Tyler removed his protective lenses for the first time in public. His golden eyes reflected the starlight as he studied the holographic coordinates projected by the device. Solaris Prime, a myth, a forbidden zone, and somehow, the key to his origins. "I'll find the truth, Mom," he whispered to the empty room. "I promise." What Tyler couldn't know was that his escape had thrown the council into unprecedented chaos. In their secure chamber, the delegates argued bitterly over the failure to capture the boy. 12 years of searching, and you let him slip away again. Zorvex raged, his scales darkening with anger. "The human woman was more resourceful than anticipated," Thane replied coldly. "She destroyed herself and 3 of our agents rather than surrender the child." Alara's skin pulsed with complex patterns as she addressed her colleagues. "Perhaps this failure is a sign. The child has survived this long without manifesting any celestial abilities. Maybe our fears were unfounded." "Unfounded?" Zorvex hissed. "The genetic markers were conclusive. If that child reaches maturity and discovers his heritage, he could access powers that have been dormant in this galaxy for thousands of years. The prophecy must not come to pass." "The prophecy is a relic of a bygone era," Alara countered. "A story told to maintain our authority over younger species." "Tell that to the architects," Thane said quietly, his crystalline voice resonating with rare emotion. "They believed the prophecy, and they paid the ultimate price for their defiance." The chamber fell silent at the mention of the architects, a species that had once rivaled the Council's founding races in power and technology. Their civilization had been reduced to ruins nearly a century ago after they had sheltered what they claimed was a celestial descendant. "We must find the boy," Zorvex finally declared. "By any means necessary. Deploy the hunters." Even Thane looked disturbed at this suggestion. "The hunters have not been activated since the Schism Wars. Their methods are extreme." "Extreme times call for extreme measures," Zorvex replied. "If the prophecy is fulfilled, none of our civilizations will survive the reckoning that follows." As the Council prepared to unleash their most deadly agents, Tyler Grant slept fitfully aboard the Horizon Seeker, unaware that the hunt for him had escalated beyond anything his mother had feared. In his dreams, golden light suffused his vision, and voices spoke in languages he shouldn't understand but somehow did. They whispered of legacy and birthright, of power and responsibility. And beneath it all, a countdown ticked relentlessly toward a moment of awakening that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. The Horizon Seeker made good time through the asteroid belt, Captain Wells navigating the treacherous terrain with the confidence of someone who had spent decades evading authorities. Tyler remained in his quarters as instructed, emerging only when they cleared the system's edge and jumped to FTL speed. "We'll reach Proxima Station in 3 days," Wells informed him over a sparse meal in the ship's tiny galley. "After that, you'll need to find your own way." Tyler nodded, pushing his food around the plate. "Have you ever heard of a place called Solaris Prime?" Wells' hand froze halfway to his mouth. His eyes narrowed as he studied Tyler with newfound intensity. "Where did you hear that name?" "Just something I overheard." Tyler lied, suddenly cautious. "Is it real?" The captain was silent for a long moment before responding. "Real enough to get you killed just for asking about it. Solaris Prime is quarantined space, has been for thousands of years. The Council enforces the boundary with extreme prejudice." "Why? What's there?" "No one knows for certain. Rumors say it was the homeworld of the Celestials before they vanished." Wells leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper despite them being alone on the ship. "Some believe they didn't vanish at all, that they're still there, waiting for the right moment to return." Tyler felt a chill run down his spine. Celestials. The same race his mother had mentioned in her message. The race whose blood supposedly ran in his veins. "Do you believe that?" he asked. Wells leaned back, his expression guarded. "Doesn't matter what I believe. Only a fool would try to reach Solaris Prime, and I'm no fool." He fixed Tyler with a hard stare. "Whatever you're running from, kid, find another solution. That place is a death sentence." The conversation ended there, but Tyler's mind raced with new questions. If Solaris Prime was the celestial homeworld, then the coordinates in his device made sense. But how would he reach a quarantined sector of space? And what would he find if he got there? The answers would have to wait. For now, survival was his priority. Tyler returned to his quarters and activated the device again, studying the star map it projected. There had to be a way to reach Solaris Prime. His mother wouldn't have given him an impossible task. As he pondered his next move, Tyler didn't notice the subtle change in his eyes. The golden irises glowed slightly brighter than before, pulsing with an inner light that hadn't been there yesterday. The awakening had begun, triggered by his mother's death and his first steps toward his destiny. Soon, very soon, the Council would have more to fear than just a boy with unusual eyes. Proxima Station hung like a tarnished jewel against the backdrop of space, its once gleaming hull now patchworked with repairs and modifications. The sprawling structure served as a nexus for those operating outside Council jurisdiction, smugglers, mercenaries, political refugees, and anyone else seeking to disappear. The Horizon Seeker docked at an auxiliary port, away from the station's central hub where Council informants might be watching. Captain Wells escorted Tyler to the exit ramp, his expression grim. "This is as far as I go, kid," he said, handing Tyler a small communicator. "If you find yourself in real trouble, use this. One-time encrypted channel. Can't promise I'll answer, but I might." Tyler accepted the device with a nod of thanks. "I appreciate the ride, Captain." Wells hesitated, then added, "Word of advice, get those eyes fixed if you can. Cosmetic mod shops on level 3 will do it for the right price. Golden eyes tend to get remembered." "I'll consider it," Tyler replied, though he had no intention of altering his eyes. They were his only connection to his true heritage, the only physical proof of what his mother had told him. As Tyler stepped onto the station, the cacophony of sounds and smells was overwhelming after the sterile quiet of the Horizon Seeker. Merchants hawked exotic goods from stalls lining the corridors, while travelers from dozens of species bustled past. Proxima Station operated in a perpetual state of controlled chaos, its own ecosystem built on commerce, desperation, and opportunity. Following Wells' advice, Tyler kept his protective lenses in place and his head down as he navigated the crowded passageways. His first priority was finding passage further toward the outer rim, closer to the coordinates of Solaris Prime. But for that, he would need information, and on Proxima, information was as valuable a commodity as any physical good. Tyler found himself in a dimly lit establishment called the Event Horizon, a bar known for catering to pilots and navigators. The clientele was primarily human, with a smattering of other species that could tolerate ethanol-based refreshments. In a corner booth, a group of pilots swapped stories over drinks, their voices carrying across the room. "Swear on my ship, the readings were off the charts," one was saying, a weathered woman with short gray hair. "Never seen anything like it in 20 years of flying the rim." "The Verge has always had strange energy signatures," replied another pilot, dismissively. "Probably just another temporal eddy." "This was different," the woman insisted. "It was like the fabric of space itself was thinning. And it was exactly where the old charts marked the boundary of the celestial quarantine zone." Tyler's heart skipped a beat. He moved closer, pretending to study the drink menu at a nearby table. "You flew near the quarantine zone?" a third pilot asked, his voice hushed with equal parts awe and disapproval. "Council patrols would blast you out of existence if they caught you." The woman, Captain Stella Garrett, according to the insignia on her jacket, shrugged. "Council's stretched thin these days. Besides, I wasn't trying to cross the boundary, just mapping anomalies for a private contractor. Good money in it." Tyler had heard enough. Taking a deep breath, he approached their table. "Excuse me," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I couldn't help overhearing. I'm looking for transport toward the outer rim, as close to the Verge as possible." The pilots fell silent, sizing him up with the wary eyes of those accustomed to trouble. He was young, too young to be traveling alone in this part of space. "Kid, the outer rim isn't a vacation destination," Captain Garrett said finally. "What's your business out there?" "Research," Tyler replied, the lie coming easily. "I'm collecting data for a xenoarchaeology project. My supervisor is meeting me at Arcturus Outpost." It was a flimsy cover story, but Tyler hoped his youth might make them assume he was a student on some academic mission. Captain Garrett clearly didn't believe him, but she seemed more amused than suspicious. Arcturus Outpost, she repeated, exchanging glances with her companions. That's awful close to restricted space for an archaeology project. The university has permits, Tyler said, doubling down on his lie. Garrett studied him for a long moment, then nodded to the empty seat beside her. Sit down, kid. Let's talk rates. Relief washed over Tyler as he joined them. For the next hour, he negotiated passage aboard Garrett's ship, the Stardancer. It would cost most of the credits his mother had left him, but the Stardancer would take him within a few light years of the coordinates on his device. From there, he would need to find another way to reach Solaris Prime. What Tyler didn't realize was that his conversation was being observed. In a shadowy corner of the event horizon, a figure in a nondescript environment suit monitored the exchange through enhanced optical sensors. When Tyler left with Captain Garrett, the figure activated a secure communication channel. Target located on Proxima Station, the hunter reported, its voice a synthetic monotone. Preparing to intercept. The Council's deadliest agents had picked up the trail. 3 days later, the Stardancer cruised through the silent expanse of the Outer Rim, where stars grew sparse and the mighty arm of the Galactic Council reached only sporadically. Captain Garrett had proven to be a woman of few words but considerable skill, navigating the treacherous shipping lanes with the confidence of someone who had spent a lifetime evading authorities. Tyler spent most of his time in the ship's small observation deck, watching the stars and studying the device his mother had given him. The coordinates it displayed seemed to pulse more insistently now, as if responding to their proximity to the destination. "You're not a student," Garrett stated, appearing beside him so quietly that Tyler startled. It wasn't a question. Tyler hesitated, then decided on a partial truth. "No, I'm not. Didn't think so." She leaned against the viewport, arms crossed. "Your eyes gave you away. Those lenses don't hide the glow completely." Tyler's hand moved instinctively to his protective eyewear. "What do you mean, glow?" Instead of answering, Garrett activated a small mirror function on her wrist computer and held it up for Tyler to see. To his shock, a faint golden light was visible around the edges of his lenses, seeping out like sunlight through clouds. "They weren't doing that before," he whispered, removing the lenses to examine his reflection more closely. His golden irises now pulsed with an inner luminescence, like molten metal catching the light. "I figured as much," Garrett said, seemingly unperturbed by his unusual eyes. "The closer we get to the verge, the brighter they've become. That's not a coincidence, is it?" Tyler stared at her, unsure whether to trust her with the truth. But something in her expression, a lack of fear or judgment, made him decide to take the risk. "I'm trying to find answers about my heritage," he admitted. "My mother told me I carry the blood of the Celestials. These coordinates," he gestured to the device, "they point to Solaris Prime." He expected disbelief, perhaps even fear. Instead, Garrett nodded slowly, as if his revelation confirmed a suspicion. "I've seen things out here in the black," she said quietly. "Things that make me question what the Council tells us about history. The anomalies near the quarantine zone have been growing stronger in recent months. Some say it's because the boundary is weakening. Others believe something on the other side is trying to reach out." A chill ran down Tyler's spine. "Reach out to what? Or to whom?" Garrett corrected, giving him a meaningful look. "There are stories among Rim pilots, stories about humans born with golden eyes. They're rare, but they happen, and the Council hunts them relentlessly." "Why?" Tyler asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Because they're afraid," came a new voice from the doorway. Tyler turned to see Garrett's first mate, Riley Cooper, her expression grave. "Stella, we've got trouble. Council patrol just dropped out of FTL on our 6. They're hailing us." Garrett swore under her breath. "Stall them," she ordered, then turned back to Tyler. "Hide. Now. If they board us for inspection, use the smuggling compartment in Cargo Bay 3. Tyler nodded and moved quickly toward the cargo hold, heart pounding in his chest. As he descended the ladder to the lower deck, He heard the comm system crackle to life. Vessel Stardancer, this is Council Enforcement Cruiser Vigilant. You are operating in a restricted sector. Power down and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Tyler reached Cargo Bay 3 and located the hidden compartment beneath a section of flooring. He was about to climb inside when a violent explosion rocked the ship, throwing him against a bulkhead. Alarms blared as the Stardancer's artificial gravity fluctuated. This is not an inspection. Garrett's voice came over the internal comm. We're under attack. All hands, battle stations. Another impact shook the ship. Through a small viewport in the cargo bay, Tyler saw the sleek, predatory form of a Council enforcement vessel closing in, its weapons ports glowing with charged energy. The ship's engines roared as Garrett executed evasive maneuvers. The Stardancer might be an older vessel, but in Garrett's hands, it moved with surprising agility. Still, they were outgunned and likely outmatched against a Council military craft. Tyler knew he should hide. It was him they were after all, but something else stirred within him. A sense of responsibility, of power. His golden eyes blazed brighter than ever, and with the glow came a strange certainty. He could help. Somehow, he knew he could help. Abandoning the smuggling compartment, Tyler made his way back to the bridge, bracing himself against the walls as the ship continued its desperate evasion. When he arrived, Garrett and her crew were frantically working the controls, faces illuminated by the red glow of emergency lighting. "What are you doing here?" Garrett demanded when she saw him. "You need to hide." "I can help," Tyler replied, his voice carrying an authority that surprised even him. "Trust me." Before Garrett could protest, Tyler stepped forward and placed his hands on the navigation console. Instantly, golden lights spread from his fingertips into the ship's systems. Displays flickered, then stabilized with enhanced clarity. The ship's engines hummed with renewed vigor. "What the hell?" Riley exclaimed, staring at her console. "Power output just increased by 300%. Shields are regenerating faster than they're being depleted. How are you doing this?" Garrett asked Tyler, her voice hushed with awe. Tyler shook his head, as amazed as they were. "I don't know. I just knew I could." Through the view screen, they watched as the Council vessel adjusted its approach, clearly confused by the Stardancer's sudden increase in capabilities. Then, a new threat appeared on their sensors. "Multiple signals dropping out of FTL," Riley reported. "Configuration matches Hunter-class pursuit vessels. They're boxing us in." Garrett's face paled. "Hunters? The Council sent hunters after us." "Not after us," Tyler said grimly. "After me." The hunters were legendary among those who operated in the shadows of Council space. Cybernetically enhanced operatives with a single purpose: to eliminate threats to the galactic order. They were deployed only in the most extreme circumstances. "We can't outrun them, and we can't fight them," Garrett said, her voice tight with tension. "Not even with whatever you're doing to my ship." Tyler stared at the tactical display, watching as the hunter vessels moved into position around them. Then, his eyes were drawn to the coordinates still displayed on his mother's device. They were close, closer than he had realized. The boundary of the quarantine zone was less than a light year away. "We don't have to fight them," he said suddenly. "We just need to cross the boundary." Garrett stared at him in disbelief. "The quarantine zone? That's suicide. The boundary defense systems will tear us apart before we get 100 kilometers in." "No, they won't," Tyler replied with absolute certainty, though he couldn't explain how he knew. "Not with me aboard. But you need to get us there. Now." For a moment, Garrett hesitated, weighing their limited options. Then, with the determination of someone who had survived in the Outer Rim by trusting her instincts, she nodded. "Plot a course to these coordinates," she ordered Riley, pointing to the holographic display from Tyler's device. "Maximum burn." The Stardance's engines screamed as Garrett pushed them beyond their rated capacity. The hunter vessels immediately gave chase, firing warning shots that became increasingly less cautionary as they realized the freighter's intentions. "Boundary in 30 seconds. Riley called out, her voice tense. The ship shuddered as enemy fire connected with their aft shields. Damage reports flooded in from multiple systems. They were taking a beating, but they were almost there. 15 seconds. Through the view screen, a strange phenomenon became visible. A shimmering distortion in space, like heat waves rising from sun-baked ground. This was the boundary, the edge of the celestial quarantine zone. 5 seconds. The hunter vessels intensified their assault, as if desperate to prevent the Stardancer from reaching the boundary. A direct hit knocked out their port engine, sending the ship into a dangerous spin. "We're not going to make it," Garrett shouted, fighting the controls. In that moment, Tyler felt something unlock within him. Power surged through his body, golden light emanating not just from his eyes now, but from his entire being. He placed his hands on the ship's bulkhead and channeled the energy outward. "Hold on," he warned, as the golden light enveloped the entire bridge, then spread throughout the ship. The Stardancer crossed the boundary in a blaze of radiance, momentarily outshining the stars themselves. The pursuing hunter vessels pulled up sharply, unwilling or unable to follow. Then, silence. The golden light faded, leaving Tyler drained but exhilarated. Through the view screen, they could see the boundary behind them, a shimmering curtain that separated them from known space. Ahead lay uncharted territory, the domain of the Celestials. "Everyone okay?" Garrett asked, checking her crew. Aside from minor injuries and the shock of what they'd just witnessed, all were intact. "What did you do?" Riley asked Tyler, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," he admitted. "It just happened." Garrett studied their sensors, frowning. "According to this, we're inside the quarantine zone, but there's no sign of the defensive systems that are supposed to be here. No automated weaponry, no minefields, nothing. Because they were never meant to keep people out," Tyler realized aloud. "They were meant to keep something in. And now we're inside with it." With their port engine damaged, the Stardancer limped deeper into the quarantine zone, following the coordinates that now pulsed with an almost blinding intensity on Tyler's device. Hours passed in tense silence, everyone aboard acutely aware that they had ventured where few had gone before and none had returned. Finally, they reached their destination. Through the view screen, a planet came into view, a world of breathtaking beauty, with vast oceans of liquid silver and continents covered in crystal forests that caught the light of twin suns. "Solaris Prime," Tyler whispered, somehow knowing the name was right. This was the homeworld of the Celestials. "There's a clear landing zone near those structures," Garrett pointed out, indicating a plateau overlooking what appeared to be an ancient city. "If I can get manual control of the landing thrusters, we should be able to set down." As they entered the atmosphere, Tyler felt a strange sensation, a pulling, as if something on the surface was calling to him specifically. His golden eyes blazed brighter than ever, and without warning, his consciousness expanded beyond the confines of his body. Suddenly, he could sense the entire planet, every crystal tree, every drop in the silver oceans, every structure in the ancient city. And he wasn't alone. Other presences brushed against his mind, curious and welcoming. By the time the Stardancer touched down on the plateau, Tyler was trembling with anticipation. He knew, with absolute certainty, that the answers he sought were waiting in the crystal city below. "I need to go down there," he told Garrett, who was busy assessing the damage to her ship. Alone, Garrett looked like she wanted to protest, but after witnessing what Tyler was capable of, she simply nodded. "Be careful. We'll try to get the engines back online in case we need to make a quick exit." Tyler descended from the ship onto the surface of Solaris Prime. The air was surprisingly breathable, with a sweetness that reminded him of spring on distant Earth. Crystal trees chimed softly in a gentle breeze, creating a natural melody that seemed to follow him as he made his way toward the city. The structures grew more impressive as he approached, towering spires of crystal and an otherworldly metal that shimmered with its own inner light. There were no signs of decay despite the millennia that had passed since the Celestials had supposedly vanished. It was as if the city existed in a state of perpetual perfection, immune to the ravages of time. At the center of the city stood a vast circular plaza, dominated by a crystalline pyramid that pulsed with golden light. the same golden light that now emanated from Tyler's eyes. As he stepped into the plaza, the ground beneath his feet illuminated, creating a path of light leading to the pyramid's entrance. Tyler followed the path, his heart pounding with equal parts fear and excitement. The entrance to the pyramid opened at his approach, revealing a corridor that sloped gently downward into the earth. Golden light guided his way, responding to his presence like a living thing. The corridor opened into a vast chamber at the heart of the pyramid. In the center stood a crystalline dais, upon which rested what appeared to be a throne made of the same light-infused metal as the city's structures. Above the throne, suspended in midair, rotated a complex holographic display of the galaxy. As Tyler approached the dais, a figure materialized before him, a being of pure golden light in vaguely humanoid form. When it spoke, its voice resonated directly in Tyler's mind. "The bloodline returns," it said, its tone carrying both satisfaction and sorrow. "We have waited so long." "Who are you?" Tyler asked, his voice steady despite his awe. "What am I?" "I am an echo," the figure replied, "a fragment of consciousness preserved to guide the one who would return. As for what you are the culmination of a plan set in motion thousands of years ago, the last of the celestial bloodline, born of humanity." The holographic galaxy above the throne zoomed in, focusing on various star systems as the being continued its explanation. Long ago, the Celestials achieved a level of evolution that transcended physical form. We became beings of pure energy and thought, capable of shaping reality itself. But with this evolution came a schism among our kind. The hologram showed two groups of light beings separating, one ascending beyond the galactic plane, the other remaining. The ascendants believed we should leave this realm entirely, transcending to a higher plane of existence. The guardians, of which I was one, believed we had a responsibility to the younger races we had helped seed throughout the galaxy. The debate became violent. Images of devastating weapons and destroyed worlds flashed in the hologram, making Tyler flinch. To prevent the complete annihilation of the galaxy, a compromise was reached. The Ascendants would depart, while the Guardians would enter a state of dormancy, merging their consciousness with the fabric of space-time itself. But before doing so, we created a failsafe, a bloodline that would carry our genetic potential, diluted through the generations until the time was right for its reemergence. "Me," Tyler whispered, understanding dawning. "I'm that failsafe." The being nodded. "Your mother was not your birth mother, though she loved you as her own. She found you as an infant during the Nereid conflict and recognized what you were, or at least suspected it enough to hide you from the council." Tyler's mind reeled with this revelation. Emily Parker hadn't been his biological mother, yet she had sacrificed everything to protect him. The love and grief he felt for her remained unchanged by this knowledge. "But why?" he asked. "Why create this bloodline at all? What am I supposed to do?" The being's light dimmed slightly, as if with regret. The Ascendants promised to observe from their higher plane, intervening only if necessary to preserve the galaxy. But they have been silent for millennia, while the Council, formed by the eldest of the races we guided, has grown corrupt with power. The hologram shifted to show Council worlds, focusing specifically on the delegates Tyler had glimpsed in Emily's transmission. Zorvex, Elara, Thane, beings who had ordered his capture or death. The Council fears the return of celestial influence because it would disrupt their dominion over the younger races, the being explained. They have suppressed technologies, restricted exploration, and manipulated interspecies conflicts to maintain their control. They speak of maintaining order, but what they maintain is their own power. "So I'm supposed to what? Overthrow the Council?" Tyler asked, the magnitude of such a task overwhelming him. "No," the being replied. "You are meant to awaken the Guardians. With your unique genetic makeup, you can access our technology and restore the balance we intended. Not to rule, but to guide. To ensure that all sentient beings have the freedom to determine their own path." The being gestured toward the throne. "Sit, and you will understand fully." Tyler hesitated, then stepped onto the dais and settled onto the ancient throne. Instantly, golden energy surged through him, far more powerful than what he had experienced aboard the Stardancer. His consciousness expanded exponentially, connecting with points of light scattered throughout the galaxy, dormant celestial technology, hidden on countless worlds. In that moment of connection, Tyler understood. The Celestials hadn't vanished. They had distributed their essence throughout the galaxy itself. And now, through him, they could awaken, not as conquerors, but as guardians once more. When the vision cleared, Tyler rose from the throne transformed. His golden eyes now shone with the full knowledge and power of his heritage. He understood his purpose and the tools at his disposal. "Thank you," he said to the being of light, which was already beginning to fade. "I won't fail." "We know," it replied simply, before disappearing entirely. Tyler returned to the Stardancer to find Garrett and her crew waiting anxiously. They stepped back involuntarily when they saw him, not out of fear, but awe. The golden light now surrounded him like an aura, contained but unmistakable. "You've changed," Garrett observed quietly. "I know what I need to do now," Tyler replied. "The council has to be confronted, but I can't do it alone. Will you help me?" Garrett exchanged glances with her crew, then nodded. "After what we've seen, how could we not?" As the Stardancer lifted off from Solaris Prime, repaired and enhanced by Tyler's newfound abilities, he opened his consciousness to the dormant celestial technology scattered throughout the galaxy. One by one, ancient systems began to activate, not weapons, but networks of communication, knowledge repositories, and terraforming tools that had lain dormant for millennia. By the time they reached the boundary of the quarantine zone, word of the awakening had already begun to spread. The hunter vessels still patrolled the perimeter but made no move to attack as the Stardancer emerged, now glowing with the same golden energy as its unusual passenger. In the following weeks, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted dramatically. On world after world, dormant celestial technology activated, offering unprecedented access to clean energy, medical advances, and educational tools to species that had been deliberately kept in technological darkness by the Council. The Council itself fell into disarray. Some delegates, like Alara, recognized the change as inevitable and sought to adapt. Others, like Zorvex, called for immediate military action against what they termed the Celestial Insurgency. Thane and his faction simply disappeared, retreating to their homeworlds to contemplate their options. Through it all, Tyler Grant, the human orphan with golden eyes, moved like a catalyst for transformation. Not conquering, not ruling, but connecting, helping species that had been traditional enemies find common ground, revealing truths that had been hidden for generations, offering choices where before there had been only the Council's dictates. 3 months after Tyler's visit to Solaris Prime, he stood in the now empty council chamber on Epsilon Eridani, the very world where his journey had begun. With him were Captain Garrett and representatives from dozens of worlds, including many that had never been granted a voice in galactic affairs before. "The age of secrecy and control is over," Tyler addressed the assembly, his golden eyes gleaming with the wisdom of an ancient race tempered by his human compassion. The Celestials never intended to rule this galaxy, only to ensure that all sentient beings had the freedom to chart their own course among the stars. He gestured to the empty council seats. "We have an opportunity now to create something better than what came before. Not a council that rules from above, but a galactic accord where all voices are heard, where knowledge is shared, not hoarded, and where the strong help the weak to rise, rather than keeping them subjugated." The representatives cheered, their diverse voices merging into a unified sound of hope and determination. Later, alone with Garrett on the observation deck overlooking the planet, Tyler allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. "Do you ever think about her?" Garrett asked gently. "Your mother?" Tyler nodded, a sad smile crossing his face. "Every day? She gave her life to protect me, never knowing exactly what I was, only that I deserved the chance to find my own path. That's the most human thing there is, isn't it? To protect those we love, to sacrifice for a future we might never see. And that's why you're perfect for this role, Garrett replied. You're not just celestial. You're human too. You understand what it means to lose, to love, to fight for something bigger than yourself. Tyler looked out at the stars, his golden eyes reflecting their light. The council had feared him, had hunted him, had tried to destroy him before he could discover his heritage. But in doing so, they had only accelerated the very prophecy they feared, the return of celestial influence to the galaxy. Yet it wasn't conquest or domination that followed, as they had feared. It was liberation, awakening, a new age of cooperation and shared purpose among the stars. They realized too late whose blood I carried, Tyler said softly. Not the blood of conquerors, but of guardians. Not of rulers, but of guides. As if in response, the stars seemed to pulse with golden light, the awakened celestial network acknowledging its heir. The orphan with golden eyes had found his heritage at last, and with it, his purpose, to be the bridge between the ancient and the new, between the cosmos and humanity, between all the diverse peoples of a galaxy now freed to determine its own destiny. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.